Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau faced public backlash during a recent vacation in British Columbia. While dining at a local restaurant, a fellow patron discreetly displayed an image of the Prime Minister in blackface. Folk singers performed anti-Trudeau songs, adding to the tension. Later at a mountain resort, a woman confronted the Canadian leader, telling him to get out.
Please get the fuck out of BC. You suck.
During a ski vacation at the Red Mountain Resort in British Columbia, Trudeau became the target of an unexpected and public confrontation. It was an incident that, while unplanned, spoke volumes about the rising anger towards his leadership.
Mr. Prime Minister. Yeah. Please get the fuck out of BC.
Have a wonderful day, man.
Yeah, you suck.
A woman fed up with the state of affairs in Canada and the Prime Minister's seeming disregard for the country's struggles approached Trudeau. With a calm demeanor at first, she politely addressed him, but what followed was an unequivocal outburst, symbolizing the national mood. Her blunt words, "Please get the fuck out of BC and you suck," were an indication of Trudeau's perceived detachment from the real issues Canadians are facing. As we move forward, I'd like to ask you a quick favor to subscribe and like this video. It takes just a second and helps us so much. The setting of this public altercation, a ski resort in the picturesque region of British Columbia, only added to the irony of the situation. While Trudeau was having a luxury vacation, many Canadians were struggling with difficult economic realities.
Given the opportunity to talk this morning about the future of North American relationship and our plans to grow Canada's economy, I just couldn't say no. Green infrastructure.
The Prime Minister began his day pitching Canada to American business leaders at a speech to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, reminding them of the billions of dollars he announced in last week's budget, with more to come.
Both domestically and internationally, we are scaling up our efforts to blend capital and leverage the know-how from both public and private sectors to deliver on our infrastructure promises.
Trudeau's decisions have been seen as harmful to the economic well-being of many Canadians, especially in sectors that depend on the oil and gas industry. His government's plans to reduce oil production by 2.7 million barrels per day, for example, are expected to lead to billions of dollars in lost revenue, at a time when the country is facing economic challenges. These plans, which would divert resources to countries like Russia and the Middle East, have caused outrage, particularly in resource-rich provinces like Alberta and Saskatchewan. Critics argue that the government's focus on reducing oil production while imposing higher taxes on Canadians only serves to increase the financial burden on the middle and working classes, leaving many families struggling to make ends meet. For these Canadians, the ongoing tax hikes, combined with rising costs of living and a lack of economic opportunity, have made it increasingly difficult to see the benefits of Trudeau's leadership. Trudeau's reaction to the confrontation was telling in its own right. Initially caught off guard by the woman's directness and the sharpness of her words,
Yeah. Please get the fuck out of BC.
Have a wonderful day, man.
Yeah, you suck.
he maintained silence and only replied by telling her to have a wonderful day. This behavior was quite different from the confidence with which he often addresses critics, and a reflection of his discomfort in facing such a blunt, public challenge to his leadership. Canadian politics has undergone significant changes in recent years, with rising support for conservative parties and a corresponding decline in the Liberal Party's strongholds. Historically Liberal-dominated provinces, like Nova Scotia and British Columbia, have seen a surge in conservative backing. In particular, areas like the island of Prince Edward Island and parts of Ontario, once solid Liberal territories, are now shifting towards the Conservatives. With economic instability, rising crime, and an increasing cost of living, many believe the government should focus more on domestic issues instead of funneling resources into foreign aid programs. These expenditures have amplified the public's perception that Trudeau is more concerned with international optics than with the needs of his own people. One example that has caused public outrage is the allocation of over $1 million towards disease surveillance in Southeast Asia. While global health initiatives are undoubtedly important, many Canadians question the wisdom of spending such a large sum abroad when Canada faces its own healthcare and pandemic-related challenges. Similarly, over $2.5 million spent on gender equality programs in smaller Caribbean nations has raised eyebrows, especially as many argue that Canada's own social policies are still grappling with gender inequality issues. The choice to invest in these international projects instead of addressing domestic gaps has led to accusations of mismanagement and misplaced priorities. Another controversial project is over $427,000 allocated for biocontrol initiatives in Africa and Southeast Asia. While these programs aim to address global issues such as biological safety and the prevention of toxic threats, many Canadians feel the government is overstepping its responsibilities by prioritizing international efforts over national concerns. The future of Justin Trudeau's leadership is increasingly uncertain, as calls for his resignation continue to grow louder across Canada. Many Canadians believe that Trudeau is no longer the leader the country needs. As the public's discontent with Trudeau intensifies, the possibility of political change looms large. The sentiment for a change in leadership is reflected in polling data that shows rising support for Conservative parties across the country. In regions like Nova Scotia, British Columbia, and parts of Ontario, Conservatives are making significant gains, challenging Liberal strongholds that were once thought to be secure. There are suggestions that the likelihood of Trudeau stepping down before the next federal election is increasing, as his position becomes increasingly untenable. The challenges of defending his record in the face of growing political opposition and public discontent could ultimately lead to his departure from the political stage, although it remains unclear whether he will voluntarily resign or be forced out by the mounting pressure. As the Conservative Party gains traction, many Canadians are hopeful that a new government will bring a change in policies that more effectively address the country's pressing issues. From economic recovery to crime prevention and healthcare reform, the need for leadership that prioritizes the needs of Canadian citizens is felt across the country. His departure could mean the dawn of a new political era, one in which the priorities of the Canadian people take center stage once again. What do you think? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.